Good morning, Dave.
Good
Welcome.
morning, all.
Yeah, welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. It's an interesting couple of things we've got there. This first article that
Well, I think we should start with
yeah.
Bradley. I mean,
Well, that's exactly where I'm going. The first article that we've got is Niagara Regional Chair Jim Bradley died at 80. You know, the weirdest thing is about this is I don't know if you know. Do you know Justin O'Donnell?
No.
Well, he's actually a friend of Jim Bradley's, even though Justin's more conservative, and Bradley served for a long time for St. Catherine's, from 1977 till 2018. He was MPP for St. Catherine's at the Ontario Legislative Assembly, and he got defeated in 2018. Then he became chair of the region. Right. So yeah, Justin predicted his death, but and then immediately apologized to Bradley for doing so, and then days later Bradley dies.
Yeah, I got a message from Gary Wilkins saying that Bradley had died, but then he says, "Oh, that's kind of fake news." But then I'm very surprised to see, and then I went looking in the news reports, found nothing, and then I found out that he did die. Well, the situation was here: he went to the hospital, he recovered from a serious bout of whatever symptoms of liver cancer, and then he got problems again, so he decided to do the euthanasia thing. I didn't understand that at first, because I read the article and I thought, and he left a statement. He left a rather long statement on his deathbed, and I thought, my God, he must have known that he was going to die. How else would he have time to give such a long statement?
Yeah,
on the deathbed of people, you might be a day or two was the last words, a day or two before they pass, before their last words come, or some people may know in an accident or something that their time is coming and quickly, and they get out a last word or two. But Bradley left a whole long statement, and we should probably read it here.
Go on.
And as soon as I get it up, he says, "To the people of St. Catherine's and Niagara, thank you for the trust and confidence you have placed in me to represent you over the years at City Council and Regional Council and at the provincial legislature," Brady said in a statement. "Our system of democracy is a true treasure, and I've always regarded it with great honor to be able to advocate for the needs and desires of our city, our region, and our province. My wish is that the important work of the council will continue in the same spirit of cooperation and mutual respect that we have worked so hard to achieve. To all of you who have reached out to me in friendship, camaraderie, and kindness, not only during my illness, but throughout my career in politics, please know that you have been a great source of comfort and encouragement in so many ways, and I have deeply treasured our time together." So I thought to myself, that was a rather long last statement. And that was just for the people of Niagara. We don't know what statements he had for his own family and other. So I thought to myself, here's a guy that knows he's going to die with a lot of time to do this. But then I read a little further on, he asked for medical assisted death. which must have he must have been very aware that his cancer was not going to get any better, and he was in for a long stretch of it was terminal, and so he decided to, while he still had something left, he would euthanize himself or ask to be euthanized of some way. That's the first time somebody that I've actually known in public office or anywhere really. You hear about this in remote cases here and there, but this is the first time a public figure so prominent has actually done that. And I just thought that was, I mean, what the kind of decisions he must have had to make.
Yeah. Well, he lost his seat, of course, to Jenny Stevens, who from NDP, didn't he?
When? Way back in 2018?
2018, yeah, 2018.
Well, Jim Bradley had been a mainstay,
yeah,
in the Liberal Ontario legislature. He was there the second longest of any other MPP.
Yeah.
In fact, he was called the Dean of Parliament or Dean of Queen's Park or something. They had a nickname for him because he'd been there for so long.
Yeah.
So he has a long, very storied career there.
And they always used to call him the King of St. Catharines because of that longevity as well.
Yeah. So he had, what, over 40 years in the legislature?
Yes, 41 years in Queen's Park, yeah.
Absolutely. That's quite a career. That's a whole career just by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be celebrated. And the point being is that if you think about this, is that when, irrespective of what you might think about Bradley, Bradley's politics, when he came in and became regional chair, we had at that time just gone through that horrible debacle with the CAO at the region, the corruption in the CAO at the region. So that put the region, I think his tenure at the region put the region on a new foundation, whatever you might think of his political viewpoints.
Well, he was a solid, trusted political public figure.
Yeah.
So when all that happened, what you do is you turn towards somebody, in this particular case, in regional politics, party politics is much less important. Your political ideologies for a region or something like that are less coming into play as they would in federal party politics. But he was nevertheless a long and trusted leader. Obviously, he was trusted if he was voted for 40 years. And I think that was probably part of the reasoning to put him in there.
Yeah.
Or to have him a kind of relief. You had a person who didn't need to be, well, for one thing, wasn't corrupt and had shown that throughout his whole career, but had no need to become corrupt because he is well established and he didn't need to get a little fancy with friends or anywhere else. He was well established in politics. So I don't know. It's we'll say goodbye to Jim Bradley. I'm sorry to see him go. I didn't know he was as sick as he was.
Yeah. I only knew that he was sick last week. And that's basically when I found out about that. He was sick, and but I suppose everybody has got to make their own decision in that regard. And liver cancer can be quite devastating.
Oh, my uncle died of it. My aunt died of it. And, so it is a very, very long, like forever death. And he probably saw that on the horizon. I don't know. I don't mean to think that I know what he was thinking, but
Yeah.
having witnessed it a couple of times, unless you get a new liver, and probably and liver cancer usually is the second. It usually comes from the colon or other places, but wherever it comes from, it usually metastasizes rather quickly. And there's just they probably just told him there's no way out of this, and he probably just thought, why put himself and everyone else around him through this?
Mm-hmm.
So as difficult of a decision that must have been, my God, you just you make the decision to die. That's had to be tough decision to make.
Yeah, and it's an interesting question. Can you be brave? Can a person, knowing that they've got a terminal illness, can they be brave enough to say, "I'm ending it"?
Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it, but
yeah.
Anyway, goodbye, Jim Bradley, and thank you very much for all your service you've done. You were a career politician of the type that we don't see of too much anymore. I mean, kind of no matter what you don't like about their politics, honest, forthright, an approachable politician who worked very well with members of the opposite party. He's the type of old-fashioned politician. If you competed against him and he won, he's still your friend the next day. You aren't the enemy. You weren't born out of evil. You're on the other side, so you must be the evil of evils. That kind of thing. So anyway, Jim, we need more politicians.
I don't like that kind of attitude. Yeah, I don't like that kind of attitude. I'm glad. I don't like that kind of attitude, and I'm glad that he wasn't one of those. And I think that the Niagara region was the better off by actually having Jim Bradley since 2018.
Well, even Doug Ford, let's put it this way, like no matter what you might think of him and his policies, he works in conjunction with the federal government, who are liberals. He's looking for the most positive output for everyone, with cooperation from everyone. And I think Jim Bradley was probably someone who showed that to even people like Doug Ford, that that's the way to go. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anything else to be said about Jim Bradley?
Nothing but R.I.P.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. We got to go to the other extreme. Gaza, the flotilla, sailing again. They're basically on their last leg to head towards Gaza, and it's gaining support. They've got 43 vessels right now.
Well, the major powers haven't been able to do anything about what's happening in Gaza, have they?
No.
The United States just keeps vetoing and feeding Israel with more and more munitions. They have failed completely in their ability to feed Gazans with their goofy system. They had the Israelis keep using food as a means of war, cutting off war, and enough is enough. There was one Turkish flotilla that got turned back. There was other flotillas that got turned back and were boarded. People were killed. This time it's huge. It's an enormous flotilla of people, and it's being backed by Spain and Italy. So two secondary powers have said
47,
enough is enough. The secondary powers have said, United
yeah.
States, Britain, France, you can't do zero. We're going to do something about it. So they started chugging along, and they've added military vessels to guard the flotilla. Despite this,
And
the Israelis have attacked it, dropped irritating solutions or stuff onto the ship to irritate people. They've bombed in and around them with the drones, buzzed them. But the other day, the Italians shot down one of the drones, and that might be the line in the water. Basically, they're coming, and if there's the only way the Israelis are going to stop them is use military power. And there are politicians and distinct persons and religious persons on on that flotilla. So we will see. The Israelis will try to sabotage it in any way possible. It's a complete humiliation for them. And when those people do land with their cameras and stuff and get off on shore, if they do, they're gonna be able to report back to the West and everywhere, whereas that has not been available from a Western perspective for the.
Well, there's currently 47. There's currently 47 ships in this, and one of the things the news has been added at the weekend. Turkey is going to add drones to show support for the flotilla.
Well, it already has.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as stated as much, but it has been shadowing the Gaza flotilla. This is because the Mediterranean, the Italians and the Spanish have had enough. That's enough. The major powers are inept in this particular case. The United States is in a period of denial. They just keep beaking off about the 1,200 people that were killed and the 251 that were captured. Well, compared that to the 70,000 people have been killed in Gaza, and about 120,000 have been injured and maimed, and those people and dozens of people died of starvation, particularly children. This is it's a nightmare scenario. And the Israeli comes out and say Hamas, 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 but they're the ones that helped create the organization. It came back to bite them in the hand, but they actively tried to support in clandestine ways Hamas because they did not want a Palestinian state, so they had to divide and conquer. So they helped Hamas get on their feet as a means to compete with the Palestinian Authority. And that worked for a time because the Hamas chased the Palestinian Authority out of the Gaza Strip. And by doing that, you had two Palestinian philosophies, one of a very fundamentalist Islamic group and one a more secular Palestinian Authority. That and one was secular, the other one was fanatically religious. And I don't know, it whatever Israel has done to protect themselves, and it goes right back to how did they breach the walls in the first place? How did Hamas, who was practicing every day, get warned by Egypt, get warned by others? Israel was warned that there's going to be an attack, and they left their fence unguarded, and Hamas just drives up with a bunch of front end loaders and rips the fence down, and does a few other things like bomb their observation towers, and with a couple of cheap drones. So a handful of cheap drones and a couple of bulldozers rip down the fence, and they invade Israel. It takes Israel, which is a postage stamp sized country, hours to reply, 2 or 3 hours. So the accusation that that Netanyahu wanted this to happen so he could engage in this is gaining strength. I think it was just complete blundering on his part, but there is that accusation that could have happened to the best military in the Middle East. How could that happen?
Yeah.
When they left the guard down that much. I don't know. There's lots of mysteries along this way, but who is suffering for this and who is paying the price is Palestinian civilians.
And this flotilla's journey from now on, they were on Crete Sunday morning. So now essentially their journey for this flotilla is going to be tougher from this point on, because now there's very little to protect them from the Israeli Air Force.
No, there's nothing, but do remember, like the Greeks themselves, the Greeks have actually let out some of their jets, F6. No, they weren't F-16s, they were F-somethings. Anyway, an older jet, but they released their jets too. Normally Turkey and Greece don't like each other too much, but in this particular case, they may find common ground.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting how the Israelis react to this. If they react with violence, these are military ships that have already shot down at least one Israeli drone, and the Israeli, in a way, it's almost like when the flotillas of European Jews came to Israel and they were and Britain tried to turn them back, and it didn't work. Eventually, the flotillas got there because the only option Britain had was to actually kill them, and they couldn't do that. So they actually let them land and the people get off. I think the same thing's going to happen here. As much as a murdering dog Netanyahu is, it's going to make matters worse for him if he gets violent with them.
And each of these boats are carrying like speedboats and dinghies and things like that in order to get ashore. So the last push ashore is going to be on speedboats and dinghies.
Yeah, that could be the hairy part. Remember Joe Biden's dock that he tried to build there and bring in stuff, and it didn't work. There was no effort to keep it going. It was sabotaged, of course, and the Israelis no way did they want that supply route to continue, because shutting off food and water is an effective way of fighting a war.
Yeah.
Netanyahu cares very little about the hostages. As a matter of fact, Hamas has told the Israelis, if you keep bombing Gaza, if you keep doing what you're doing to Gaza, you're going to kill some of the hostages.
Yeah,
because the bombs and stuff are getting close enough. You might kill whoever is guarding the hostages, but you kill hostages too.
Absolutely.
So basically, these poor hostages are being pawns. The Israeli government wants them to know that hostage taking does not work anymore. Hostage taking worked when they took that one soldier and held him for 5 years, and then traded him for thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Israel wants Hamas to know that does not work anymore. That the hostages are ultimately expendable. So we will not. The fact that you have these hostages will not work. That whole plan of grabbing hostages and holding them for ransom, basically, will not work anymore.
And Netanyahu hasn't cared about them from day one.
No, he's a devotee of the Hannibal Directive.
Yeah,
which means and a lot of the suspicion is a lot of the A lot of the Israeli captives were killed by the Israeli army so that they could not be used as hostages. So it's a big mess. There's lots of lies being thrown out back and forth. There still is that idea that 40 babies were beheaded, which was ridiculous. Netanyahu tried to play that at the UN. He tried to overstate, which has already been proven, a lot of the atrocities that were so-called atrocities were committed. There was lots of atrocities committed. Let's be clear about that. But on the October 7th, they added a whole bunch of other atrocities that didn't happen, and Netanyahu tried to spew that out at the UN, and a lot of that stuff's being disproven, and yet he still is using it.
Yeah.
Netanyahu is a war criminal. If you take Yahya Sinwar and Netanyahu, they are mirror images of each other. They are mirror images. Cold, calculating. In Netanyahu's case, he's very persuasive. He's lied to the American people constantly. He's got Mossad and others spying on the U.S. everywhere you go. And, of course, he's, according to Tucker Carlson, he's been going around the Middle East telling everybody that he owns the U.S. He can tell them what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the truth, right? That's part of the problem that we have here, you know. Okay. Now, this drone's likely to arrive in the next probably 48 hours.
You mean the flotilla?
The flotilla, I mean. Yeah, I meant flotilla.
We will see. And it wants to get into blockaded waters. Then what will happen? Who knows? What the Israeli and for anyone out there who still thinks that the Arab countries are being don't want the Palestinians. Well, the whole idea is to get the Palestinians out there, to force them out. And people think, well, how come they won't take them as refugees, these other countries? These are refugees already. 78 to 80% of Gazans are people that are being displaced from what is now Israel. They are already refugees.
Yeah.
Jordan is made up mostly of Palestinian refugees.
Oh yeah.
Right. There are the Palestinian diaspora is in Lebanon, Syria. Everywhere you go, there's Palestinians that got forced out of what is now Israel during the Nakba and other wars and the 67 war.
Most of the Palestinians we have here in Canada are the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're forced out of somewhere or another. You know, so the very idea that the other countries don't take them in. Well, they've already have been taking them in years and years and years. They've been taking them in.
Been taking them in for years. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, I just hope it ends really quick, and I hope this flotilla accelerates it. I can't stand the American attitude towards this. They give Israel veto power on everything. Almost every other country in the world is against what Israel's doing, except the United States, and it's the United States that keeps giving them weapons and keeps giving them veto power in the UN. And we know in the UN, the Finnish prime minister has said it's time to get rid of that veto.
Yeah. Well, the problem is the longer you keep it going, the longer that, we're talking about pretty well every nation on the planet except the United States opposing this right now. Well, nobody cares about Russia anymore.
Well, Russia's also opposing him, but of course they're playing politics.
Yeah.
They're denouncing what Israel's doing in Gaza while doing the same thing in Ukraine.
Yeah. That's why I said nobody cares about Russia anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. How Canada denies Trump's claims about Tylenol and pregnancy.
Oh boy.
This is a kind of weird one.
This is I try to look into it a little bit, and what they're citing is evidence on a study or two that looked at this issue, and they feel that some study has tried to and remember, these are not conclusive studies because they have to be done over and over and over again, and they have to be redone and matched. And so they've had a bunch of studies, but what the ones that the U.S. here are trying to zero in on are the one or two studies that indicate there may be a correlation between autism and pregnancy. The problem is acetaminophen is used primarily for pain of pregnant ladies, and also for fever. Now, fever is a big deal because if a mother, expectant mother, is in a fever, that could really adversely affect the child. So it's pretty important that fever come down, and Tylenol is one of the best ways to bring that fever down.
Mm-hmm.
Problem happens with all the different studies, and it seems that the U.S. administration has leapfrogged a bunch of studies and kind of before all the evidence is in. Mild doses of Tylenol will not affect any developing fetus. It seems to have been determined, but excessive amounts we don't know. So I don't know where the science is on this. Most people are still advocating, doctors are still advocating for moderate use of Tylenol if you need it. I'm sure if somebody's taking Tylenol or any drug repeatedly every day, that would definitely affect the child.
It doesn't matter. Obviously, a pregnant lady has got more hormones and more chemicals going around in their body than you or I have. But the trouble with excessive use of something like Tylenol, it's problematic. If you got pain, and this is a big problem with painkillers anyway. If you got pain, consistent pain, we tend to overuse things like Tylenol anyway. I'm not saying there's anything bad about Tylenol. We have this tendency to overuse drugs. These over-the-counter drugs.
Well, let's be clear. The drug, of course, is acetaminophen, the one that Trump had trouble pronouncing. I don't blame him for that. I might have done the same thing in his shoes. These Latin and Greek names for drugs are a little dumb, if you ask me, but they are scientific, and they've for centuries the West has used Latin and Greek in its sciences, and that's why we have names like acetaminophen instead of just really good painkiller 1, really good painkiller 2, or whatever. So that these are painkillers and fever reducers. Now there's going to be a huge alarm out there. Tylenol stocks are going to go down like crazy.
Yeah.
The Tylenol company, who are the ones that mostly use acetaminophen, are I don't know. I don't think they saw this coming at all. And you can't trust a drug company. Of course, they don't care about you. So if Tylenol did cause autism in kids or whatever, if they had the information, they would subdue it. That's what you would expect of a big company like that.
It's a long way from being proven, though.
This is the big problem, and most doctors, it seems to me, and most experts saying that the proof is actually the opposite. That it is very safe to use it. Now, what we don't get is doses, how much you use it, and all that other stuff. You have one camp that says you will risk causing autism in a child, and the other camp says, look, if you get a fever and don't treat it, you're going to bring a lot of problems to your unborn child, where it's a catch-22 situation from the expectant mom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do I take it or don't I take it? Do I have a fever or whatever? So I don't know. You're going to have to go through all the different women who took Tylenol during their pregnancies and see how many kids were autistic.
Yeah. And it's very difficult to really know that, to know the results. So, okay, so you could go through, all the people who've got autistic children and start your research there, but it's far from definitive.
No, yeah, it's these are ongoing researches and they're worldwide.
Yeah.
And they're peer reviewed. But there hasn't been any real conclusion to this. Now, of course, the suspicion is if there is evidence, the powerful drug companies are putting the lid on it. Well, even the powerful drug companies knows that lid's going to blow up one day or another. So it's really against their interest to keep the lid on it for too long. However, it doesn't look like that was the situation here. There was no cover-up or anything of that kind. The administration decides the Tylenol is bad for you, bad for expectant moms. Don't take it. That's exactly what Trump said. Don't take it if you don't need it. Try to resist. But where is the evidence? The evidence is inconclusive. And Tylenol is being used for or acetaminophen is being used for many, many years. Now, when I take acetaminophen, my ears ring. So I tend not to use it, but that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that because the impact it has upon you. And maybe you use another product, you use another product instead, I'm guessing.
Yes, morphine.
Yeah. And the morphine is one of the big problem areas, isn't it?
Yeah. So pain control is a very, very difficult situation because of the means by which we treat pain. We have addictive drugs, and we have things like Tylenol and ibuprofen, and all of them have a spin-off effect.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know. Geez, for all the you just put a lot of huge stress on a lot of pregnant moms who have taken Tylenol up to this point and now put massive amounts of stress and anxiety on the mother right now. That can't be good for babies either. When the mother is extremely stressed. So that's another factor here. This should have been done more scientifically. This should have been done when you collate the data, but you got a weirdo like RFK in the mix who seems to be making arbitrary decisions based on what he thinks, not what is science. And of course, you have the pharmaceuticals companies who nobody trusts. And you got a whack job of a president, right? Trying to deflect any which way and what against the Epstein files. So, okay, we'll remove the whack job part of it, but he is definitely a politician trying to deflect as much as he can away from the Epstein files right now. And maybe that's why it was he thought he might need to make the announcement, and he made it himself, not RFK. So he made it and said, "Here I am to save the day. Don't take Tylenol."
And again, why is the president making such an announcement? It just seems wrong to me.
That's not his purview.
It's not.
RFK should be making that announcement.
Yeah.
But he's not, because Trump wants to take the credit for it and wants to look like the hero. Anything to deflect against the Epstein stuff. That seems to be, and just as an aside, for 4 years, the Republicans have been hammering on and on. We want the Epstein files. We want the Epstein files. Pam Bondi, Dan Banjoni, Kash Patel, files. Dave Rubin, Douglas Murray, file. All these very MAGA types demanding the files be opened up. And now it's the reverse. The Democrats are asking for it, and the Republicans are trying not to open them up. That's because they had a peek inside and see there's a lot of Republican supporters in there. So, okay, we changed our mind. We don't want them open anymore. And do you see the trick that Johnson's done? Like, this guy's incredible. Like he closed the Congress one day early to avoid the vote a little while ago, and now the Arizona congressperson is coming, and he won't swear her in. 2 weeks ago, he swore in a person immediately after they won, but this time Johnson says, I'm going to have to need all of the results and all the official stuff so he can delay swearing her in, which is, and she won by 40%. So he's playing this game, hoping that giving more time will allow him to convince more Republicans not to sign on to the petition. Boy, he's in a rough spot. He's got to do what Trump says. No matter what he thinks about the issue himself, he's got to do what Trump says. And if he isn't successful, Trump will axe his head. So he's running around like crazy trying to talk Republicans into not signing for the files. It's insane. Like, it was like files right up until Trump won, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, we looked in there, we don't like what we see. Hey, it's all over. It's a big hoax. Well, who's been perpetuating that hoax for the last 4 years?
Yeah,
it was Republicans.
Yeah. Well, and now we're 9 months into this presidency.
No, it's madness. Right? I'm wondering when he's going to get sidelined. I'm wondering when Vance or Rubio or somebody else is going to make a move on him. And I also wonder if he's going to cancel the midterm elections or somehow try to interfere with them. Because what it looks like now that they will lose, and this is very typical. It's typical of whoever the president is. The people vote for the opposite party.
Yeah,
from Senate and the Congress. So that's kind of like a tradition that happened to Obama.
But
you know what I mean? So,
but he has enough hold on there that he's unlikely to lose both places.
Well, he's got the MAGA folk basically will do his bidding, but doing his bidding is becoming a problem for a lot of the Republicans now when they're seen to not have a mind of their own. I think that upsets the electorate a bit. And the fact that he's trying to fix the election by demanding that Texas and Missouri change their electoral districts. In between census taking, which is the usual time, and we'll see what kind of chicanery he comes up with when it comes to the election. He might try to fix the midterms. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's worrying. That's very worrying. But then again, I've got every confidence the American public will actually see through that. And
it's hard to say. They will see through it, maybe. But if it's fixed, like Trump keeps saying it was fixed against him, if he goes in there and he puts troops and things like that at polling stations, and he's trying to mess with the And we saw before too, even in the 2020 election, Arizona refused to refused, had three different counts, or three different counts before they actually endorsed their candidate fully, endorsed the president. They had three different counts because they wanted to make sure. But they also, any Republican who had said, oh, well, it looks like the Dems won, was tossed out of the party. And they actually had to send the authorities to one area to make sure that they gave up the votes. They weren't going to report them. And election officials have been under fire ever since and threatened. So we'll see. If anyone's going to try to fix an election, it's going to be Trump.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Niagara City Council is saying we need to keep Niagara streets safe because of criminalized drug use and other crime going on, which is basically leaving an at-risk population.
This is another attempt to do something with the drug-infused homeless people. There is a lot of homeless folk out there, and the major problem, it seems, is drug use. We have they call it the fentanyl fold, where people take fentanyl and just fold over. And I saw that myself just a couple of weeks ago at the Staples store. There was a guy there who was just folded over, stoned out of his mind. And we were just keeping an eye on him. And he wasn't doing anything bad, but he sure looked sick and folded over. I don't know what they get out of it, what kind of high they get out of it or whatever, but they sure look terrible and they look sick. What is happening, of course, is we cannot deal with the homeless people, and particularly those ones that are addicted to drugs like fentanyl. They're all over the place. They're they're observed everywhere. They get into the way of businesses, and there doesn't seem to be a way out of this. What the police have come up with is they're going to have a little bit more. They're going to be a little bit more intolerant of drugs. Prior to this, they just confiscate the drugs and let them go. Maybe now they're going to actually arrest them because they didn't do that before. So there's going to be a new effort by police. Probably if they find somebody in possession of drugs, they'll arrest them this time rather than just confiscate them and let them go, because it's not getting any better.
It was a thing that a couple of years ago, before he died, Wayne Campbell was concerned about, is that we need to keep the streets safe. We need to be doing more to keep the streets safe. But he's not the only one, and they haven't said who was saying this.
Well, we're trying to make the streets safe from an at-risk population.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, these people are part of our community, whether we like them or not.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about them? And this is coming up over and over again. And
this is
Ruth and Newstakes talking about here about she owns Patterson Funeral Homes, and there's homeless all around there. They sleep in her gardens. Drew Daddy says they defecate all over the place. They interfere with people. They reduce the ability of businesses. Like I said before, way out there at Staples, where I was trying to dig up donations for the last little while. There was a guy there. There's a homeless guy that lives in the back of Staples. As a matter of fact, at the back corner of Staples, there's a guy. He's got a nice little house. I don't know if he's a fentanyl guy or not, but this fentanyl guy happened to be there, and I know that the homeless guy lives there. So he was doing the fentanyl fold, or the zombie, as other people call it, the zombie drug. And he looked sick, and he was folded over, and I don't know what was going on there. But do the police now have the right, if they catch someone with drugs, can they incarcerate them? And what the police said up till now is, what is the point? The law is not on our side here. The law won't prosecute them. If you take them to court, they don't do anything with them. They send them they tell them to go get help. They never do. They say, okay, I'm going, but they don't. And so what do you do with them? And I am seriously saying, and I've said over and over again, that these people are now the offscourings of society.
But they're becoming
wastrels.
One of the issues that we face overall in society is that they are becoming more and more problematic in our streets. Somebody was saying the other day that within 5 to 10 years they expect homeless to be unbelievable proportions, and the problem is not going to go away, it's just going to grow.
I don't think it's going to grow that much, because I don't think it has as much to do with the economy, although the economy is certainly a factor. And this is happening North America wide. I think it's probably all through the Western world and other places.
Well, yeah,
it is the ability of drug cartels to produce and to sell this stuff all over the place and make massive amounts of money. My solution to this is to track down the money, follow the money. We find that banks and all that seem to want to look the other way when they have big, huge customers like terrorists and narco dollar types. If you go after them money wise, if you what the U.S. is doing in the Caribbean right now is deplorable. They're just killing people in boats, and they're not providing evidence that these are drug trafficking boats. But 70% of the drugs that go into the United States go via the West Coast. So are they going to start blowing up ships in the West Coast too? But they don't come from Venezuela. They come from Colombia and other places. But the ones they were blowing up. And so the whole process by which they go after drugs and drug cartels and that is wrong. You gotta start here at the base level.
Yeah.
You have to, if somebody has drugs on them, put them in jail for as long as it takes for them to dry out. And that's going to be a painful process. It's going to cost money. But if you interrupt the drug sales, you will probably do more damage than anything. I don't know what the solution is, but you can't let this keep happening where a certain segment of your population is interfering with the businesses of the area, defecating around, dropping needles here or there. In and around the St. Catharines Library, it used to be littered with needles and feces. So what are you going to do? How are you going to treat this? Sooner or later, there's going to be a real negative backlash. And as I said, they will no longer be a part of the community. They won't even be real people. They will be the wastrels and offscourings of society that fell off the path of life and are now wasted human beings. So we really don't have much to do with them anymore. It's a really sad situation there. I don't know how we can help people recover a life. It'd be very I don't know what to do.
Yeah, tough. Yeah. But again, I'm still not sure a crackdown is actually, I think the resolution has got to come from other things.
Well, we keep saying that. We keep saying it over and over and again. All kinds of different strategies are put in place, but it's narrowing down to the politicians. More and more of them are going to the point where they have to do drastic action, draconian type action, round them up, put them in a place, force them into rehabilitation, and keep them out of the city, put them outside of town in special areas where they're forced to take rehabilitation. That's an infringement on their human rights, but it might do them. You never know. The other part of the argument is they won't be humans until you do that.
But forced rehabilitation doesn't work. That's what the people in the rehabilitation industry say.
Yeah, but the people in the rehabilitation industry have not have a whole lot of success, have they? The people in the rehabilitation save a few here and there, but largely they don't really make much of a dent.
Yeah,
in what's going on, and big thumbs up and celebrations. I mean, AA does wonderful work for alcoholics and other abusers and things like that. They've been fairly successful, but the amount of successes they have are dwarfed by the amount of unsuccess. So we're having people die and waste decades of their life, and then after that, even if they do recover, they do it in a hospital, and if they don't return to drug use, then they are unwell for most of their life. How do you interrupt that? How do you help people become human again? Because when they're on drugs, they're not human. They don't have a control of their own human destiny. Let's put it that way. Their whole destiny is driven by not just like our destinies when we were primitive people were get food, get shelter, procreate. Those are the kind of things. We didn't have much time else for anything else. But now we don't have to worry about obsessing about food because we can get it. We don't have to obsess about shelter or whatever, or dangers are over. But what do you do when a human being slips into that zone of drug abuse and loses his or her humanity to it? How do you help them come back?
Yeah, I think we can leave it there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we've already talked about Gaza, and I'll say this too, that there's another 41 people killed the other day. There's probably even more than that. The world is getting, the United States may want to play see nothing, hear nothing, fear nothing. You notice that you don't hear a whole lot about AIPAC or the Israel lobby on stations like CNN, MSNBC, Fox. None of them will even touch that because it's verboten topics. This has to end. I mean, you guys got like Tucker Carlson and others talking about, and Mersheimer and people like that talking about the powerful Israeli lobby and how they own the U.S. Congress.
But it's the same issue. I see it as the same issue as we had with China. The Chinese interference in Canadian election. Same issue.
Well, it's nowhere near. The Chinese are nowhere near.
I know they're not.
Power of AIPAC. They haven't even got touches of it.
No, it's disturbing, but it's the same issue.
Not really, because AIPAC is a lobby group, and China does not. It was doing its nasty stuff, not in lobbying, but by interfering with Chinese communities.
It's still,
and the Chinese don't make up that much of a contingent in Canada anyway. I think they only make up about 3%, don't they?
Yeah, but again, it's still interfering in our election process, and that's interfering in the American election process.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an entirely different thing. And like AIPAC is a lobby group, an American lobby group.
A lot of money. With a lot.
huge amounts of money, and
Yeah.
they don't have them themselves. They direct other donors to it.
Yeah.
And Adelson I saw her on TV talking about how she was able to direct Trump here and there. Tucker Carlson of late, Thomas Massey, who is a Republican, all talk about how the Israeli lobby controls Congress and the Senate. They give, like, I think three quarters to 80% of them. They have the money ties on them. Anyway, it's a terrible thing that's happening in Gaza, and it has got to quit. And perhaps this flotilla will force it, and perhaps force even Netanyahu to stop the fighting long enough to get some of the hostages. Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu.